You're scrolling through your phone at midnight. A notification pops up. Your chest tightens. Your thumb moves before your brain even decides to look. Nothing urgent. Never is. But your body already hit the panic button. Cortisol is already flooding your bloodstream. And the worst part? You'll do it again in 3 minutes. That tiny spike of dread over absolutely nothing is the price you pay for a brain wired to hate uncertainty. And it's costing you more than you think. But here's what nobody tells you. The path to calm isn't finding more answers. It's learning to stop asking the question. More than 2,000 years ago, a group of ancient Greek thinkers figured this out. They didn't meditate. They didn't chant. They doubted. Everything. On purpose. And what they found on the other side of all that doubt was something most of us spend our whole lives chasing. Peace. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly how weaponized doubt works, why your brain fights it so hard, and how a simple daily practice can cut your anxiety by almost a third. Let's start with a cave. Not a metaphorical one. A real cave. Somewhere in the grasslands, 100,000 years ago. A rustle in the tall grass. Could be wind. Could be a lion. Your ancestor doesn't wait to find out. They bolt. Heart hammering, legs pumping, every nerve screaming danger. There was no lion. Didn't matter. Because the ancestors who paused to think it through, the ones who said, "Let me weigh the evidence here," those are the ones who got eaten. The survivors were the jumpy ones. The ones who treated every unknown as a threat. And you inherited their brain? This isn't ancient history. It's running right now inside your skull. When researchers put people in a lab and gave them a choice between a guaranteed $5 and a coin flip for 10, most people grabbed the sure thing. Not because they couldn't do the math, because uncertainty itself felt like pain. The safe bet lit up reward centers. The gamble triggered the part of the brain that processes physical discomfort. Your brain literally treats not knowing as a form of suffering. So what do? We chase certainty like oxygen. We refresh the news feed. We demand answers from doctors, from partners, from algorithms. We build entire lives around the idea that if we just know enough, we'll finally feel safe. But here's the trap. The more answers you collect, the more questions surface. Every answer is a door to 3 more unknowns. It's an arms race you can never win. And this is exactly where most people get stuck. They think the problem is that they don't know enough. The ancient skeptics realized the problem is the wanting to know itself. Now, when I say skeptic, you probably picture someone who just refuses to believe anything, arms crossed, rolling their eyes. That's not what this is. Not even close. The Pyrrhonian Skeptics, named after a man called Pyrrho who lived around the 4th century before our era, weren't deniers. They were suspenders. There's a huge difference. Denying something is just believing the opposite. Suspending is hitting pause on the whole game. They had a word for it. Epoché. Think of it like pressing pause on a video player. The content is still there. The movie hasn't vanished. You just stopped it from pulling you forward. You stopped reacting. The Pyrrhonians trained themselves to reach this state through a set of 5 mental tools. Each one was designed to undercut your confidence in any firm conclusion. Here's how it worked in practice. Say you believe something. Say you believe the honey on your tongue is sweet. A Pyrrhonian would ask you this. Is it sweet because of the honey or because of your tongue? Change the tongue, you might change the taste. Someone with a fever tastes bitterness where you taste sweetness. So which is the real flavor? The honey's? Yours? The sick person's? You start to realize you can't separate the thing from the way you're sensing it. Now try that with a bigger belief. Is your political view correct? Based on what? Your upbringing, your culture, your particular slice of experience on this planet. Someone raised on the other side of the world, with different parents and different struggles, holds the opposite view with the same conviction. So who's right? The Pyrrhonian doesn't answer that question. That's the whole point. They hold both sides up, look at them carefully, and set them down at exactly the same height. Neither wins. Neither loses. The war just stops. But this wasn't just philosophy class. This was daily training. And it still works. Think about the last argument you got into. Maybe with a friend, a coworker, your own brain at 3 in the morning. You were grinding on it, replaying the conversation, building your case, tearing down theirs. That grinding is what the Pyrrhonians were targeting. Not the beliefs themselves, but the friction those beliefs create when they rub against reality. So they journaled. Every morning, a Pyrrhonian skeptic would sit down and write one question. What do I truly know? Not what do I think? Not what do I feel? What do I actually honestly know for certain? And then they'd watch their list stay very, very short. Modern researchers decided to test this. They took 30 people and asked them to do the same thing. Each morning they wrote. Twice a week they argued both sides of any topic. Not to win, to balance. After 2 months, something remarkable happened. The people in the study became measurably more flexible in their thinking. Their mental rigidity dropped dramatically. But here's the part that surprised even the researchers. Their heart rates changed. The rhythm of their heartbeat became more variable, more adaptable. That's a physical marker of stress dropping. Their bodies were calmer because their minds had stopped fighting. And this gets at something deeper than just stress relief. The Pyrrhonians had a name for the destination at the end of all this doubt. They called it ataraxia, a calm so deep it doesn't ripple when the world shakes. Not numbness, not apathy. Quiet engagement. You're still in the world. You still eat breakfast. You still have conversations. You still make choices. But the mental noise, that constant hum of trying to be right, trying to be sure, trying to nail everything down, that goes silent. Sextus Empiricus, who wrote the most complete account of Pyrrhonian practice, returned to that word more than any other, because it was the only destination that mattered. He wasn't being repetitive. He was being precise. Because the whole system, every doubt exercise, every balanced argument, every moment of suspension, points toward this one outcome. Not knowledge, not truth, calm. But wait, doesn't this fall apart in the real world? If you suspend judgment about everything, how do you cross the street? How do you choose a career? How do you decide whether to trust someone? This is the strongest objection critics have thrown at the Pyrrhonians for centuries. And it's a fair one. If you truly doubt everything, you'd be frozen, unable to act, unable to choose. A philosopher stuck at the crosswalk for eternity. Here's how the Pyrrhonians answered. They drew a sharp line between locked-in belief and practical inclination. You don't need to believe with absolute certainty that a bus will hit you to step back from the curb. You feel the inclination to move. You follow appearances. You act on tendencies. What you don't do is build a fortress of conviction around the idea that buses are inherently dangerous, that curbs are fundamentally safe, that your perception of traffic is the ultimate truth. You just step back, lightly, without the weight of dogma. Some Pyrrhonians were physicians, making judgment calls about symptoms and treatments every day, not from certainty, but from careful observation and practical experience. This is where skepticism meets something surprisingly modern. Picture a patient in a Paris clinic, 1890s, being asked to write down every fear and then argue against it. Cognitive behavioral therapy, the most widely used form of talk therapy today, works on a strikingly similar principle. You take a distressing thought, you examine the evidence for it, you examine the evidence against it, and then, instead of clinging to it or denying it, you hold it more loosely. Therapists in 19th century France actually referenced Sextus Empiricus by name. The connection isn't a metaphor, it's a lineage. But here's the nuance that makes this richer. Not all skepticism works the same way. There's a fork in the road that matters. One branch, the Pyrrhonian path, says suspend fully. Don't rank beliefs. Don't assign odds. Just pause. The other branch, called academic skepticism, says you can rank things by how probable they seem. You can say, "Ashwi, this seems more likely than that." It sounds gentler, more practical. But when researchers compared the two approaches head-to-head, something startling showed up. People who practiced full suspension, the Pyrrhonian style, saw their baseline anxiety drop by nearly a third. People who practiced the odds-based style saw gains too, but only about half as much. Half a year later, most of those gains had quietly dissolved. The full suspenders held steady. Why? Think about it this way. Ranking beliefs by probability is still playing the certainty game. You're still trying to figure out what's true. You're just doing it with percentages instead of absolutes. The Pyrrhonian move is more radical. You step off the playing field entirely. And once you're off the field, there's nothing left to lose. There's one more layer here that most accounts miss completely. For a long time, scholars assumed Pyrrho came up with all of this on his own, sitting in Greek gardens, debating with Greek friends. But Pyrrho didn't stay in Greece. He traveled east with Alexander's army. He walked through what is now India and Pakistan. He met thinkers from traditions that had been practicing radical non-attachment for centuries. Some scholars now argue that Pyrrho's whole framework was shaped by exposure to ideas from Indian philosophy. These were concepts about emptiness and the limits of perception, already ancient by the time Pyrrho encountered them. The debate is ongoing, but the possibility reshapes the story. This isn't just a Greek invention. It might be a cross-cultural discovery, found independently in traditions separated by thousands of miles, because it touches something fundamental about how human minds work. And there's another gap in the story that's starting to close. For centuries, everyone assumed the skeptical circles were exclusively male. Then, in the early 2000s, scholars deciphered a first-century inscription from the ancient city of Smyrna. It names a woman as a disciple of Pyrrho. One inscription doesn't rewrite history, but it cracks a door open. The practice of doubt may have been more inclusive than anyone assumed. So if all of this is true, if trained doubt can quiet the mind, soften the body, and dissolve the friction of constant conviction, then why doesn't everyone do it? Because it feels terrible at first. Your brain is a certainty machine. Asking it to suspend judgment is like asking your lungs to pause between breaths. Every instinct screams to fill the gap, to decide, to land somewhere. The discomfort is real. It's measurable. Sitting in not knowing is, for your nervous system, almost identical to sitting with danger. But the Pyrrhonians knew this. That's why they made it a practice, not a philosophy class. You don't read about Epoché once and feel calm. You journal every morning. You argue both sides every week. You hold opposing ideas up side by side until they weigh exactly the same in your hands. And slowly, over weeks, the scales stop tipping. Your body follows your mind into balance. The practice isn't about becoming someone who believes nothing. It's about becoming someone who isn't crushed by the need to believe everything. What belief did you realize you're gripping too hard? Drop it in the comments. Remember that midnight scroll? The notification, the tightened chest, the cortisol spike over nothing? The Pyrrhonians would tell you the problem was never the notification. It was the part of you that needed to know. Let it not know. The calm is already waiting on the other side.